You've been using SaaS your entire life. And if I put you on the spot right now and said build me one, you'd freeze. Not because you're not smart enough. It's because nobody ever showed you what's actually inside of one. This was me. I could throw around words, talk about reoccurring revenue, nodding through conversations about subscription in the cloud. And then I actually sat down to build one, and I realized I had no idea what I was doing. So I did what I always do. I stopped reading about it, and I built one. And what I found inside was almost embarrassingly simple. It's 3 layers. That's the whole thing. But here's the part that actually matters. The code isn't the hard part. There's one concept that separates a real SaaS from just an app with a login screen. And almost every developer building their first SaaS skips it completely. We're hitting that when we go to build ours. Let's go. Real quick, let me show you the scale of what we're talking about. The average company runs on 106 SaaS applications. 106. 75% of all software in the world right now is SaaS. Only 25% is still installed locally on someone's machine. The global SaaS market is worth $375 billion in 2026, growing at almost 19% per year. And there are 17,000 SaaS companies in the US alone. Gmail, SaaS. Slack, SaaS. GitHub, Netflix, Notion, Spotify. Every single one. You've been a SaaS customer your whole life. The question is, are you ever going to be a SaaS builder? Here's the pattern that makes every single one of them work. Before I tell you, think about an app you use every day. Where does your data live? On your machine or somewhere else? Here's the signal. Strip away every SaaS on the planet. The branding, the pricing pages, the product roadmaps, and every single one runs on the same 3-layer pattern. Every single one. Layer 1, the front end. This is what the user sees. The interface, the buttons, the dashboard, the login screen. When you open Notion and you see your workspace, that's the front end. It runs in your browser or on your phone. The user installs nothing. Layer 2, the backend and database. This is where your data actually lives, not on your computer, on someone else's server in the cloud. When you type a note in Notion, that data gets sent to their servers, stored in their database, and synced back to every device you own. This is the service in software as a service. The software doesn't live on your machine. It lives on theirs. That is the key difference. Layer 3, payments. This is what turns an app into a business. Subscriptions, reoccurring revenue. You pay monthly, you get access, you stop paying, you lose access. This is the layer that separates a SaaS from a side project. The moment you add a payment layer to your app, you have a SaaS. Take Obsidian. Free, local first, your notes live on your machine. No cloud required. But Obsidian Sync and Obsidian Publish both run on their servers, so they charge for them. Value that requires their infrastructure gets a price tag. That's the payment layer. I have a whole video on Obsidian. Watch it after this one. It's called Stop Learning Obsidian. Links in the description. Apply this right now. Name an app you use. Can you identify all 3 layers? The front end, what you see. The back end, where your data lives. Payments, how they charge you. That's the whole model. That's it. Front end, back end, payments. Salesforce, the company that launched the modern SaaS era in 1999, runs this pattern. Before we build, 3 terms you need to know. IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. Here's the difference. IaaS, infrastructure as a service, renting raw computing power, servers, storage, networking, AWS giving you a virtual machine. You build everything on top of it. PaaS, Platform as a Service, infrastructure plus tools. Heroku, Vercel, you bring your code, they handle the rest. SaaS, Software as a Service, the finished product. The user never touches the servers or the infrastructure underneath. They just open the app and use it. IaaS is renting an empty lot. PaaS is renting a kitchen. SaaS is ordering food delivery. Most people are just ordering food delivery. But as a builder, you need to understand how the kitchen works. And that's exactly what we're about to do right now, live. All right, we're building a SaaS right now, not a toy app, a real pattern you can take and ship. The stack is the same combination powering most new SaaS products in 2026. If you ever looked at a boilerplate on GitHub, you've seen this exact setup. Tools and roles. We're gonna have Next.js for the front end and server-side logic, Supabase for authentication and database, Stripe for payments, Vercel for deployment. This combination has become the Rails for SaaS of 2026. Understand these 4 tools and you can build almost anything. And we're not building this by prompting Claude like a chatbot. We're using Claude skills. 1 skill for each tool in the stack. I've programmed Claude to know exactly how to scaffold Next.js, to configure Supabase, wire up Stripe, and deploy on Vercel. Instead of writing commands from scratch or Googling documentation, I give Claude 1 instruction and it builds the right thing. If you don't know what Claude skills are, I have a full video on it. Watch it after this one. Links in the description. The skills themselves are all in my GitHub repo. Links also in the description. Here's exactly how this works. First, you want to get the Claude skills installed. Again, you want to head to my GitHub URL. You want to copy the link, simply head back to Claude, paste it in, and then proceed to say, I want you to download the skills inside the SaaS folder. Once they're installed, you want to open up Visual Studio Code or VS Code, or whatever IDE that you prefer. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new folder. We're simply just going to call it SaaS, Software as a Service, and we're going to open up that folder. When everything is configured and your folder is set up and the skills are installed, head back to Claude. Specifically, you want to head back to the Claude code section. And then you want to choose a different folder and you want to locate the folder that you just created. Now, Claude is pointing at your project. Now here's where it gets different from any tutorial you've watched before. You're not typing commands. You're not copying boilerplates from Stack Overflow. You look at Claude and you say, build out the front end of my SaaS application using the Next.js developer skill. That's the whole prompt. Pause the video right now, get your folder open, get Claude pointed at it, then say those exact words. Build out the front end of my SaaS using the Next.js developer skill. I'll be here when you get back. Claude is going to ask you questions. Answer them. It'll say, what does your SaaS do? Who is it for? What pages or features do you want? Any design preferences? Do you have a backend API already? This is where you get to think like a product builder, not a developer. You're making decisions, Claude is executing them. That's the shift. The bottleneck is no longer, can I write this code? It's, do I know what I want to build? So here is my PRD, my product requirement document, which answers all of those questions before Claude even opened its mouth. This right here is the document that turns a vague idea into a buildable spec. Once you send the PRD through Claude, it will start to build out everything for you. Project is live. We've got our front end framework running. But right now, this is just a website. It's not a SaaS yet. So what makes a SaaS? Users. And users mean authentication, the ability to sign up, log in, and have your own data that nobody else can see. This is where Supabase comes in. Supabase is an open source backend. It gives you Postgres database and authentication. When I connect to Supabase to this project, two things happen instantly. A real cloud-hosted database where user data lives, and full auth. Sign up, login, password reset, the whole entire flow. Now here's the concept that I told you about in the hook. It's the most important first time thing that SaaS builders skip completely. Multi-tenancy. Most first time SaaS builders skip this entirely. Then they wonder why their product breaks the moment a second user shows up. Here's what this means. Multi-tenancy means one instance of your application serves multiple users simultaneously, but each user only sees their own data. Think about Gmail. You're using the same Gmail application as billions of other people around the world, but you only see your emails. Every inbox is isolated. One app, many tenants, completely isolated data. That's multi-tenancy. Without it, you don't have a SaaS. You have a single user app that happens to have accounts. Really think about this. What breaks if you get this wrong? User A sees user B's private data. That's not a bug, that's a lawsuit. Multi-tenancy is an optional architecture. It's the architecture. In Supabase, we implement this through row level security, RLS. Each row in the database is locked to a specific user ID at the database level. So, user A cannot read or write user B's row operations, period. The database enforces this before your application code even runs. You don't write security logic everywhere in your app. You write it once in the database and it holds for everything. Right now, we've got a Next.js frontend, a Supabase backend with real auth, a real cloud-hosted database, and proper multi-tenant data isolation. Users can sign up, log in, and store data that nobody else can access. This is already more than most tutorial projects ever reach, but it's still not a SaaS. We have a front end, we have a back end. We're missing the third layer. The moment you add payments, it becomes a SaaS. This is what separates a project from a product. And the tool the entire industry uses for this is Stripe. Stripe handles subscriptions, recurring billing, free trials, plan tiers, everything. When someone signs up for your SaaS and pays you $20 a month, Stripe processes that payment, manages the subscription lifecycle, and fires webhooks at your app when anything changes, upgrades, downgrades, cancellations, failed payments. Stripe tells your app the payment went through. Your app unlocks that feature. That's it. I've already wired this up. I'm building Slice.SaaS, a platform for food businesses to run their storefronts and build customer loyalty. 3 products in Stripe. Slice.SaaS starter at $99 a month. Slice.SaaS growth at $199. Slice.SaaS Pro at $299. Paid from day one, but with a free trial. You let them feel the product before they commit. 3 tiers, 3 natural upgrade movements built into the product itself. Starter gives them enough to run, growth gives them enough to retain, and Pro gives them enough to compound. You're not chasing upgrades, you build the ceiling into each plan, and customers upgrade themselves when they hit it. So look at the pricing page. It's simple, flat monthly pricing, no per transaction fees, no hidden costs, cancel at any time. That's how you build trust with customers before they even pay you. Watch what happens when a user clicks Choose Pro. Stripe takes over entirely. It handles the checkout page, the card form, the payment processing, PCI compliance, all of it. We never store a single credit card number. Our app just listens for the webhook. that says this user is now a paying customer. And we flip a flag in Supabase that unlocks their pro feature. Think about what this means for your business. The user pays, Stripe handles the transaction, your app responds. So you built zero payment infrastructure. You own zero payment risk. You just collect the money. And just like that, we have a SaaS, a real one. A user can sign up for free, use the basic features, decide if they want more, pay for a subscription, and upgrade access immediately. 3 layers: front end with Next.js, backend and database with Supabase with RLS, payments with Stripe. That's what a $375 billion industry is built on. It's not magic, it's a pattern. And now you know it. But there's still one thing before this is real. We have the 3 layers, but right now everything we build lives on your machine. That's not a SaaS. That's a local dev environment with a Stripe account attached to it. A SaaS has to be on the internet. That's what Vercel does. Remember when I broke down IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS? Vercel is the PaaS, the kitchen rental. You bring your code and they handle the infrastructure. No servers to configure, no DevOps teams, no deployment pipelines to write by hand. You connect your GitHub repo, push your code, and Vercel builds it and deploys it automatically every single time you push. Every commit to main becomes a production deployment. Here's what's actually happening under the hood. Vercel runs your Next.js app on a global edge network. Servers distribute across dozens of cities worldwide. Your users in Tokyo, Berlin, Sao Paulo, they're all hitting infrastructure close to them. You built this alone. You're now running global infrastructure. That's what this stack does for you. And Vercel handles one more thing that matters before this goes live: environment variables. Your app knows your Supabase URL and your Stripe API keys because you've configured them in your Vercel's environment variable panel. They never touch your code. They never go into your GitHub repo. If you ever commit a secret API to GitHub, rotate it immediately. That key is compromised the moment it hits a public repo. Pause right now if you're following along. Add your environment variables, then push your code. Vercel will pick it up and deploy it, and then come back when you have a live URL. This is an example. Once you push your code to GitHub, Vercel then builds it, deploys it, and then it hands you a live URL. The app your users will hit, not a localhost, not a staging server, a real address on the internet. Anyone in the world can sign up, log in, and pay you. 4 tools, 1 deployable, scalable SaaS. Now let me tell you something that changes everything about how you look at what we just built. We built a SaaS in 1 sitting, not in 6 months. Not with a team of 10 engineers and a product manager. 1 sitting, 1 stack. And this is exactly why 2026 is the best time in history to build one. Solo founders are hitting $5,000 to $50,000 in monthly recurring revenue by themselves. No venture capital, no co-founder, 1 person, 1 niche problem, 1 surgical tool that solves it. They call these micro SaaS products, and they're eating the markets that big companies are too slow and too bloated to serve. 70% of micro SaaS business generate under $1,000 a month, but the other ones that win are hyper specialized. They own a niche so specific that they have almost no competition and very low churn. AI coding agents have changed the leverage equation entirely. Tools like Claude Code and Cursor can scaffold full features from a description. The bottleneck isn't, can I write this code? It's, do I know what to build and can I describe it clearly enough? That's the shift. The people winning in SaaS right now aren't necessarily the best coders. They're the best problem identifiers. But here's the stats that keep everything real. About 90% of SaaS startups fail, and the number one reason? They build something nobody wants. 6 months of features before talking to a single paying customer. Your first dollar matters more than your first 100 users. One person paying you real money means you've validated something. Nobody paying means you haven't. The answer is simple, and everybody overcomplicates it. Find a group of people who already are paying for software they complain about. Read the 1-star reviews, lurk in Reddit threads where people say, I wish this tool just did X. That's your opportunity. You don't need to invent a new category. You need to build a more surgical version of something people already buy and charge less or do one thing far better. I told you at the start there's a mental shift that most developers never make. And here it is. Most people think about software as a product. You build things, you ship it, you're done. SaaS is not a product. SaaS is a relationship. You're not selling someone a thing. You're providing an ongoing service. Your software is never done. It lives, it evolves, it responds to your users. You update it, you improve it, you fix it when it breaks at 2 a.m. And in exchange, people pay you every single month. That's the shift from building a thing to running a service. And honestly, that's what makes it powerful. Products get one payment. Services get reoccurring revenue. Products sit on a shelf. Services compound. When you understand this, SaaS stops being an abstract enterprise buzzword and becomes what it actually is, the most accessible business model within tech. You built one today. You saw the 3 layers. You saw how simple the pattern actually is under all the marketing. Right now, think about a problem you have that software doesn't solve well. A specific frustration. Could you build a surgical SaaS to solve it? If you know someone else has the same problem and they're paying for an inferior solution, that's your opening. The only question left is what you're going to build with it. If this clicked, I'm leaving the entire GitHub repo in the description below with the Claude skills. Build it yourself. That's the only way this lands. And if you want to see the next steps, I'm building a micro SaaS from idea to first paying customer. Research, validation, launch, to first sale. All of it. That video is coming next. If you want to come with me on that building, subscribe now. This is for builders, not browsers. You walked into this video not being able to explain SaaS. You're now leaving with a working one. That's the difference between consuming and building. Student is a title, builder is an identity. You don't need to become a computer science student to become a builder. Stay hungry, keep building.